Welcome to the Limitless Leaders podcast. This is a show where my guests and I explore and expand on all things mindset, leadership, and communication. On the show, I interview inspiring leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all walks of life, where they share their stories, experiences, and lessons. This is a podcast for you if you're looking to learn, grow, and accelerate your life, career, and who you are. Hi, and welcome to the Limitless Leaders podcast, where I interview people from all walks of life about mindset, communication, leadership, EQ, and much, much more. Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to my guest, Jane Foster. Jane's an educator, a researcher, a presenter, and an author, and she loves what she does. And I can actually vouch, I've seen that. She holds a PhD in health and education and is a qualified traditional Chinese medicine, Shiatsu, and yoga. Her initial training was in outdoor education, where she witnessed firsthand how taking responsibility positively impacted self-esteem and self-regulation. This experience motivated her to develop a universal language that replaces blame, judgment, and retaliation with responsibility, empathy, and compassion. Combining her skills with neuroscience and positive psychology, she created My Turn, which we will talk about in a bit of detail, which has evolved to ER, emotional resilience. She now equips people from all over the world and different age groups with proactive strategies to help build emotional resilience, manage daily stresses, successful change perspectives, and create new neural pathways. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. Thanks, Renee. It's good to be here.
Yes, I've been so excited to have you on the Limitless Leaders podcast. And I want to say, first of all, congratulations on your new book. It's in
Thank
your
you.
hands, your steering wheel, your choice. Amazing. So, Jane, I guess for our listeners and our viewers, how have you become who you are today and who you're continually becoming?
Okay, probably to begin with, I went to a school where there were just girls for a while before we went co-ed, and there was a lot of bitchiness,
Yeah,
and it taught me to sit back and think, wow, what, and I didn't use the analogy I use now, but it was, what road are they on? It wasn't what they were saying to me was about me. It was actually about them.
yeah,
And and then I got into outdoor education at school, and which was fabulous because I was able to get away from all that peer stuff and start to succeed from within. You
Mhm.
climb that mountain, you climb that rock face, you face that fear, you go down those rapids in the kayak. And it gave me, which is what we're talking about, self-esteem is just so important. Not
Yeah,
that I lacked it, but it just reinforced from within.
yeah.
And then I trained in outdoor education, and I can remember being on a rock face, and I was belaying a boy who was real bully, and he was a multi-offender, and
Mm,
we'd take them out for weeks at a time to teach them.
amazing.
And he was about three-quarters of the way up, and he froze, and he cried and was totally the opposite persona of what he projected all the time. And we talked together, and I didn't pull him up. I let him compose himself. It took over an hour
Yeah,
because it was quite a hard rock face. And when he came up, he was a different person. And it was the first time he had achieved something from inside.
mm,
It didn't mean stealing a car or beating someone up or doing something like that. He had actually confronted his emotional fears and been able to gather himself and come up. And it was then I thought, I want to give everyone this, the
amazing.
ability take control of their own steering wheel, no
Yeah.
matter what the situation.
I absolutely love that. And the serendipitous thing, and this is hand on heart, when I got your book, I read your whole book as I mentioned it, but when I got it, I just opened any page and that was the story I read.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing is by accident.
No, no, I always say synchronicities, not coincidences. That's amazing. So you've actually got a really defining moment where you went, how amazing is it to be able to help someone else
Mm,
tap into their inner resources? Because we all have everything we need. It's just a matter
absolutely.
of accessing it.
Mm,
That's profound.
mm.
What does he do now? Do you know
I
if,
don't know because it was in Canada.
yeah,
So, yeah. So I'm not sure. But and we'd take them into the wilderness for 3 months at a time sometimes, and
yeah,
98% of them never reoffended. And yet they axed that program.
yeah, I don't get all that.
No,
Yeah.
I
No.
didn't.
Because
I
it's a
didn't
bit
either.
different or yeah, but it works. So
That's the thing.
that's amazing. So is that when you started doing what you do now? Like,
No, I spent 6 years overseas teaching outdoor education then, and climbing Kilimanjaro and
wow,
spending time with the mountain gorillas, which was unreal. And that was when Diane Fossey was still alive, and um, you know teaching skiing in France and
amazing.
all sorts of things in Greece. And I
Yeah.
did that and came back and then, yeah, worked with a lot of marginal groups when I was overseas. And I came back and went into the classroom, and my teaching was totally different.
Mm,
Because unfortunately, the teaching, the whole education system is just going up to the pyramid of university.
right.
And that my youngest son, he has he has dyslexia.
Yeah.
And we were and this reflects the education system in that we were camping, and I had a friend of his with me, and I heard him say, "Oh, there's a new kid. That new kid, he's even dumber than you are, Sam." And I thought, oh, what an interesting thing to say. So I said, well, what do you rate as intelligence?
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, getting A's, that's what it is. And I said, well, this is the energy continuum,
Yeah.
and this is education
Yeah.
smarts,
That's
intelligence.
right. I agree. I agree with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's yeah, so I tried to bring the whole continuum into my teaching, by getting them to bring up little chickens for 2 weeks and
Mm,
see the progression and how they love them when they're all fluffy. And by the second week, they put them in the crèche, and they don't want to put them with that chicken because he's rough. And oh, I don't want my chicken to go home with that person. And I said, well, how do you think your family feel? About you going off and yeah, and when the little chickens are teenagers, that's when they don't want something to do with them. So giving them that practical sort of stuff. And then in
okay.
the end, there was just so much about the education system that just didn't agree with me. And that's when I was teaching these principles and they were working. So I then went and to schools to say, why don't you do that? And well, what are your qualifications? Well, it works.
Yeah.
And then I realized I needed to do a PhD,
Mm,
just to authenticate the whole thing. And it was the best thing I ever did
mate.
because I did it with first year university students.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
um, they didn't meet me, I didn't meet them.
Yeah.
And their age ranges from 17 to 70. There was a huge age range. And all they got was a text a day for 8 weeks. That's all. So they didn't meet me. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to get any results here because the post test was during exams. Well, they increased on every level. The control group didn't move at
Yeah.
all, really, but the SMS group moved. Their psychological distress levels came below the average university student. It
Mm,
increased their resilience, their life satisfaction, and also their psychological well-being. But I think what really, I mean, that blew me away, but what really blew
Yeah,
me away
I'm
was,
going, wow. Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
I had 20 individuals that I interviewed, and four of them, it actually stopped them suiciding. And I just was, whoa. And one of the girls who had attempted suicide the semester before, because all it was a text a day. The text that changed her was, "Are you driving under the influence of someone else's emotion?"
Oh my, you're
You,
freaking me out today. That's
mm.
the quote that I've got circled.
Well, that's why you've got it circled.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and yeah. So ever since then, it's how to and it impacts because you can start teaching this at 18 months old,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
impacts right through to 100. So I wanted to do something because we all know we need to increase our emotional intelligence and resilience, but
Mm,
how? Well,
that's
this
right.
way you can incorporate the language into everyday life, so you're almost doing it unconsciously.
And it's not work, it's part of who
No.
you are. It's not a, I always say, IQ's what you know, EQ's who you are.
Mm,
And
exactly.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, it's amazing. And you've got so many of those great stories in your new book, which we'll talk about soon. And I think what do you think drove that the texts each day? Was it the content that you got through to a few people and then it changed to different people? Or was it the fact that, they were quite autonomous and had time to sort of go inwards while
And
studying?
well, you know, when you do a PhD, you have to create some sort of theory. Well,
Yeah,
mine was the anonymous caring connection theory.
there you go. Yeah.
They, because they didn't know me, I didn't know them, it didn't matter how they responded. In fact, they didn't even have to open the message if they didn't want to.
Yeah.
But all of them felt that there was someone out there caring for them.
Connection. It's
Mm,
connection.
exactly. And that's why the AI influencers, the
Yeah.
biggest ones are, yeah, AI because the computer comes back to them straight away. If they make a comment, the computer's back, oh, someone. So they don't even care if it's not real.
No. And I think AI has some good, really good uses. And then I'm right on the fence with it.
Exactly,
I
it does. Well,
think,
if you look at Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. Well,
yeah.
I think it's changed to I am responded to, therefore I am
Yes.
now.
I love that.
Mm,
You need to do a little meme on that.
yeah.
Good. It's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it comes back. I love that. Comes back to connection, and we all know connection's a human need. When Jane, when I left the corporate world 18 years ago, I fell into job search, which you're probably going, I didn't even know what it meant. But I got approached, your energy, your passion, and I worked with job seekers 2 weeks at a time, 35 people up north in Australia, like up at Weipa,
Oh,
Broome,
wow.
unair conditioned room, three generations of one family in the room. And it was hard. I mean, there were people coming off, drugs, but it built me as a facilitator now because there was no ego in the room. So even now I do a lot like you in corporate. People go, oh, watch out for that Jane. I just ignore that. And I've never
Mm,
had an issue with anyone.
mm,
Something the bit the same as what you were saying. The program went amazing. We got 80% into sustainable work, and then they wanted to put it online. It was the 12 days of me in a room going, I'm
yeah.
not here to help you survive. I want to show you how you can live.
Mm,
And that was a differentiator, and just those little things. And a bit like you said, I got this gift, which I normally have in here at the end of one of the programs from a lady that lived in her car, and it was a shoebox. And at first I was like, oh, what's in here? I- They checked it and I opened it up and it said, if I hadn't met you this week, I wouldn't be here right now. And it was little red shoes. There's no place like home. A little Barocca. Don't forget to spread your energy and love. And that was just
wow.
about the human connection. And I still have that to this day. And I think
Beautiful.
Yeah, I just love, the stories and the data and the theory that you're bringing to such a much needed message.
Mm,
Um,
exactly. And that's why the steering wheel is your connection to yourself.
yeah, it is.
That's what's so important because yeah, and the language that we use
Oh,
because changing that good and bad emotions because as you know from the book we're picking everyone off the smooth roads and I mean off the rough roads and putting them on the smooth because we think that's what we're meant to do.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yet a pulse rate does this, doesn't it? To
That,
show you're alive. And when
that's
it does that,
right.
you're dead.
You're right.
So we're never going to get a smooth life, and nor should we. The aim is to, it's interesting. I did a survey of about 5,000 parents
Wow.
and what they wanted for their children. And every one of them started with happy. Now,
Yeah,
no one's going to be happy all the time. We're sort of fixated on this one emotion when we have about 22,000.
that's right. That's
It's
right.
not about being happy. It's about being able to take control no matter where you are.
I love that. And being in control and having that self-knowing and self-control. And I love what you say because I'm a big believer, your gifts, your lessons, the challenges, you're living, and if
Mm.
they're coming at you no matter what. So if you're on a bit of a downer, what can you learn from that to progress and help others progress forward?
Absolutely. I had an interviewer say the other day, why do we always have to struggle to improve? And I said, well, you need to change that mindset. It's not a struggle, it's a challenge.
The
And
challenge.
you're doing your advanced driving course. How cool is that? You learn, you increase your driving skills on a rough road, not a smooth road.
That's right. That's right.
Mm.
And there's no growth on the smooth road.
Mm.
You talk about it a bit in your book, the comfort zone piece. I always say to people, and I don't know if it's because I do a lot in building and construction and I'm married to a builder, but I say if you slice a piece of timber and you've got the rings, when you're in a ring, you're in a comfort zone. When you do something stressful or you've got a challenge, you go to the next ring, but after a while that becomes a comfort zone, and anything outside of that ring is growth, and we're here to grow.
Mm.
So tell me about your book. I've obviously read it, but I'd love you just to explain the concept. Something I do want to say to those listening or watching is if you love creativity and metaphors and applicable action, this
Oh,
is your book. Yeah.
sorry, you just disappeared then. There we
Oh,
go.
I'm back. I
Yeah.
didn't go and read your book. I've already read it.
Yeah.
But I love the metaphor of driving because I think it's something everyone can relate to. And it's just got so many, pardon the pun, so many roads it can take us down.
Yep.
Um, Tell us about the book, just as an overview, sort of, and then we'll go into some of the processes in it.
Okay. Well, that came about because I actually tried training some people to do what I do, and it didn't work.
Mm,
And I thought because it needed a certain energy behind it, and it's a language, and you don't learn language overnight. And
no,
this is something I have grown up with. And I had to learn that too, that this isn't something that people can take on immediately, although a lot of it you can, because you're only changing three or four things.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, so I wanted a way to encapsulate the whole thing. So that's why it's divided into different sections. So
yeah,
the first section is basically the driver's manual. And then you've got a section that you can open up anytime that'll give you a saying, just like the university students had. And I've done what I didn't do them. Ali did the most amazing line drawings that you can color in. So if that's one of your pets,
yeah, yeah,
which we'll learn about, and it's but I also and then the third part is the research and some resources that you can use because I think there's some people who really like to see the research side of things and the theories that came out of it and how it has changed because it's just such a privilege to do what we do, to
oh,
introduce people to be able to steer their own life and
oh. It's a
lose that
big
blame and judgment.
responsibility, isn't it?
Mm.
But it's so if someone who have you written this book for?
It can be for individuals of any age, obviously, as long as they can read. Parents,
Mm,
really valuable for parents because as a whole, even though that's a my turn is sort of part of ER, and that's the
yeah,
my turn is the one for families and education,
yeah,
businesses. I mean, I have health institutions use it, sporting um, clubs, and it's it's supposed to be my whole idea was to change culture. So I'm trying to
mm,
change these social mores of always having to be happy,
mm,
the stigma against rough emotions that people call them negative and bad,
yeah.
and when you do that, you actually get rid of the judgment and getting changing your language to get rid of blame because
Oh,
blame actually you're
mm,
giving them your steering wheel when you blame. And then you're left on a rough road with no source of control. And so you retaliate.
mm,
You did this to me, I did this to you. You know, you give
yeah,
me the finger, I'll give it back. You bomb me, I'm going to bomb you. And
yeah.
we
Not
even
a
have
way to live. No.
look, but even kids in America, when they shoot in schools, they name it up like that. They say, "This is because you didn't invite me to the prom.
Mm.
This teacher is because you failed me or whatever." So this blame is so deep in our culture, and the way that
Become a societal norm
it
that
has
had to find someone to blame. And I always use the term we need to go from poison to peace. It's a bit like
Mm,
forgiveness
yeah.
because when you're blaming, I always say, what do you think the other person's thinking about this? And they go, no. And I go, so who's really winning here?
Exactly. There's a beautiful quote about forgiveness, Mark Twain. I love this.
Mm.
Forgiveness is the fragrance that, oh, what is it?
It's actually in my book. I've put
Yeah,
it in
forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that crushes it.
it. Yes.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? Mm,
I love that. Yeah,
mm,
actually one of the 12 gifts in my books is the gift of forgiveness,
mm,
which I think is such a taboo topic, especially in corporate,
mm.
not brought up.
Absolutely. Well, it's like shame. There
Yeah.
isn't one person out there who isn't ashamed of something they've said or done, and that's
Yeah.
okay. That's part of why we're here to grow.
Yeah, that's right. I just love it. So one of the acronyms in it is my term. So as in MYTERN. Um, do you want to run us through that and how maybe our listeners could apply that for themselves?
Okay, so I chose, well, it's interesting because I came up with the acronym of TERN first,
Yeah,
and that's take emotional responsibility now.
yeah,
And then I thought, you turn, we turn. I thought, no, it's my turn. It has to come from within each person. And so, the whole thing, and the reason I picked the metaphor of cars and steering wheels, because we use them every day.
yeah,
And the only way you can change behavior and thinking is through changing your language. It's
mm,
such a powerful way. I mean, we all go to seminars and think it's great, and we're going to take that on, and the next week or the next month, it's gone
sugar
because your
hit.
language is still
Yeah,
the same.
yeah,
And so that emotional responsibility, because emotions scaffold everything.
mm,
And a lot of people get emotional and emotional intelligence mixed up.
do.
It's yeah, emotional intelligence is totally different, and it is the scaffolding. And I wanted to incorporate EI or EQ and resilience as well, and that's how I incorporate the emotional resilience
Yeah,
and taking control of your own steering wheel, because at the moment we're oh, that was another saying message that really changed one of the students around. It was, are you a passenger in your own car?
mm,
Because a lot of us allowing other people to take control. For example, it's the government's fault.
mm,
Why are you giving them your steering wheel? It's so and so's fault. Or it's so one of those language changes is you're not making me angry. I'm choosing to be angry.
That's
Now,
right.
all of a sudden, if I'm making you, I'm giving that to you. If I'm choosing, hey, I'm back in control.
You can
And that's
change it.
powerful. Mm,
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Language is so important, and I know, that whole your thoughts create your feelings and your outcomes. It goes back into that negative inner dialogue we all do at times. And I just absolutely love this metaphor because I think anyone can apply it.
mm.
If you're not driving yet and you're listening to this, you're probably really looking forward to getting your license, but you can get it now because it's within you. I just absolutely love it. And the emotional resilience, if our listeners out there right now are going, what's one thing I could do to build that today as I'm listening to this? What would be, I'd say to you, go and read this book, but what would be amazing that you'd give a
I
strategy?
think the biggest thing would be to change bad and good into rough and smooth. Like even then, when we talk about negative feelings or negative, no, they're rough feelings.
Yeah,
Or I made a bad choice. No, you didn't. You made a rough choice.
yeah.
And I think it's the biggest thing is giving them the freedom to experience what they're feeling rather than pretending to be happy, thinking,
Mm.
well, I'm actually on a rough road at the moment, but there's a purpose to the rough road.
Yeah.
It's building my resilience, it's increasing my driving skills. The smooth roads are just as important because
Mm.
that's where you process everything that you've learnt on that rough road.
Yeah.
And that helps build your emotional health.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing they can do is start getting rid of the judgment towards themselves and being honest. Yes, I'm on a rough road, and you know what? That's okay. Am I in control or not?
Mm.
And the biggest thing, you only build that resilience when you regain control.
That's
And
right. It's
but
a
it's
muscle.
also
It's a muscle we've got to build on.
it is. It is. And it's while you're doing that, taking away that judgment from yourself, that things you do or say or feel aren't good and bad, they're rough and smooth,
Yeah.
is to
Just
then
a
take it
reframe.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
take it out to everyone else.
Yeah.
He's just given me the finger. Wow, he's on a rough road. I wonder what's happened to him today. Rather than that judgment and oh, I'm going to do it back. And, it just escalates into one big thing. So I think that's the biggest thing. The simple change of get rid of good and bad and towards yourself and others.
Yeah.
And wow, that was a rough thing they just said to me. Mm,
Absolutely love that. That's such an easy one to bring in. And
mm,
I don't think a lot of people realize how powerful our words are. I mean, I call our voice in our head and our thinking the DJ in our head, but it's really not our voice most of the time. It's that monkey
mm.
mind.
Yeah.
It's about reframing. And yeah, I absolutely I love that as a reframe and as a visual too. Like I'm
Mm.
not everyone's very visual. I'm highly, highly visual.
Well,
Um,
that's right. And it is. It's all about perspective. And that's
yeah,
why pets and teps, which you'll learn about if you read the book,
yeah,
is the same spelling, but just the reverse of letters. PET is a personal emotional tool,
yeah.
and TEP is a trigger for extra precaution because they're things, and these challenges we call triggers aren't negative. They're
No,
challenges, whoa, just getting up out of bed is a
yeah,
TEP you
yeah,
know,
for
having a
everybody.
shower, often, just looking at your body, wondering what to wear, wondering what to eat. How are
Yeah.
you going to go deal with that atmosphere at work? And it's the
Mm,
biggest thing is, and I think a lot of people have felt this after the pandemic. They really realize that there's people and circumstances you cannot control.
yeah,
The
that's right.
one thing you can control is how you respond. And that's what this teaches you to take back that steering wheel.
Yeah, love it. And so needed. And I think this is a book you could read every year. There's I call them evergreen books. I read
Yeah.
a book a week at night. So I'm a big reader and there's certain books I go back to, and this is definitely one of them. Um, so, we talked about really controlling our thoughts, owning our emotions. I love what you said earlier. There shouldn't be negative emotions because all emotions serve us in some way. So you might be feeling, a lot of doubt, low self-esteem, but it might cause you to go and learn something new and help you grow. Um, but I think it's important too that we sit with our emotions. I think, and I know coming from the corporate world and working in it, there's a lot of let's keep going and
Yep.
always say be vulnerable. If you're having a flat day, let people know. Just don't make it every day.
Mm.
This
Well,
whole
it's about using this language as well, because there's no judgment. And it's
no,
for example, people who are really anxious, and suffer from anxiety. Our
mm,
society at the moment saying that's wrong. We're going to pick you up and put you on a smooth road. Whereas the way ER does it, listen, at the moment you're wired to be anxious, and that's okay.
yeah,
Let's just teach you how to be in control on that road of anxiety. And that's where all my hand signals come from. Yeah. So it's not about you're broken and we need to fix you.
yeah,
It's about, oh, you just need to be shown how you can regain control on that road.
right,
And and what happens then is, because they're not told they're broken or whatever, they end up having the ability to drive on more smooth roads than
yeah,
they were before,
that's right.
because that's we're not trying to say you shouldn't be here.
Mm,
All emotions are okay. I mean, when did we start to change sad into an illness,
yeah, I know.
not an emotion to be experienced? As you know, depression, totally different. That's
Oh,
illness. But
yeah,
sad is something we need to experience.
yeah. I love is it Pemba Chodra? Her book Welcome the Unwelcome, around until your heart breaks, you are never feeling and alive.
Mm,
And I think that's part of it. I have a sister that's had horrific mental illness since she was 18 and she's nearly 50 and keeps going and has a lot of downs and has always just been grace and heart. And, some of the things she'll go to will be a similar path to this, which is great. Others are like, suck it up, you've got support. And I think if you're out there, and 1 in 5 in Australia are suffering from some sort of burnout or mental illness, and don't confuse the two because they're different.
yes.
um, Really sit down and go inwards and think, just really reflect, I think, on how you're talking to yourself. That reframe I just love. Rough instead of bad, rough instead of good, smooth. And know we're all on a road. We don't always need to know where it's heading either. There's so
No.
much of that
And
achieve.
if you're on a busy road, it doesn't mean they're going in the right direction. And that's something that I think I shared with you beforehand, that I spent a lot of times on roads all by myself,
Yeah.
and came to the conclusion it's not because I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm actually forging new roads for other
Mm.
people to follow. And and people will come on your map and go off your map, and that's okay too.
That's an interesting little topic too, isn't it? I think, especially through the pandemic, I know a lot of people, including myself, I've got a lot of friends because I went to 4 different schools, moved a lot, lived overseas, and there's probably 3 or 4 that have sort of, I call it the unspoken breakup. There hasn't been an argument, but just don't look forward to catching up with them as much. And it's sort of, and I think be owning that and going, the reason season thing, whatever you want to call it. But what has that person taught me, even if
Mm,
it's good or bad? And, that they've been in my life for a reason, because we talked before, didn't we? Things happen
absolutely.
for a lesson or a reason,
Mm.
really a lesson.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you try and force them back on your map, then it becomes detrimental for everyone.
Not
It's
meant to be.
accepting that, oh, okay, you're on a different map now. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah,
for what you gave to me. Yeah.
it's interesting. Us human beings, hey, we're complex individuals, but I think we over complex things. I think we just need to bring it back.
And that's exactly why I did that metaphor.
Yeah,
Because if I say to someone how you're feeling, that's quite personal,
yeah,
and maybe they don't want to share. But if I say to them, what side of the map are you on, rough or smooth? That's out here.
yeah. I
And
love.
especially teenagers and things. And, what's the tip you're experiencing?
Yeah,
There was a guy who was clicking his pen like this as I was talking the other day. And I smiled at him and I said, that's a bit of a tip for me. And he said, "Oh, no worries." And because it wasn't stop doing that, that's really annoying me. It was just a TEP is objective. It's,
Yeah,
there's no judgment. So it's making it so simple that and understanding the rear view mirror is small for a reason.
yeah, that's right.
It's the windscreen is out here. So too much reflection, you'll
Yeah.
crash. So it's getting that balance.
I always think, the past is a bit of a graveyard, but you learn from it. The
Yeah,
future's not always guaranteed. All we have is now. So it's being in that space.
absolutely.
Oh, we could chat for hours. I wanted to ask you, I have a concept called the gift mindset. It's a mindset I've lived with since I was 23. I lost my dad. He was 49. I was 23, and um something just turned on in me, switched on, I should say, around everything, good or bad, is a gift.
Yeah.
It's come to us because we're ready. I'd love you just to share what's been a lesson through good or bad that you've learned that has helped you be where you are now.
Hmm. That's a big one. But and just something I want to say on you. One of my relatives is going through enormous grief at the moment,
Oh,
and I said you need to listen to your intuition. Grieving is personal for everyone,
yeah.
and um, there are there are gifts within that, but they take time to
To
open.
unwrap, to unwrap.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So it's um, I think.
yeah.
Oh gosh, there's so many things. What happened recently to me was profound. Um, Last year, because I'm very fit and I eat and do yoga and
I
Wim
saw
Hof
that.
breathing. I do all of that sort of stuff, and I do have a lot of energy. Well, I'd just done a online course teaching.
Yeah,
I rang a friend of mine in Las Vegas, and she said she's busy and I'll ring back in an hour. So she rang back in an hour, and I said, "Where are you?" I said, and she said, "Las Vegas. Where
mm,
am I?" "You're in Sandringham." "What's this?" And I held up my book, and she said, "It's your book." "Have I written a book?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "What's this suitcase doing here?" "You've just come back from Sydney." "What was I doing in Sydney?" Visiting your granddaughter." "Do I have a granddaughter?" And I started to loop. "Where
yeah,
are you? Where am I?" And
yeah,
after about the fourth time, she's going, "Oh, I'm going to ring her son." And she said, "Just sit down on the couch and I'll ring Sam." She
yeah,
rang him and he came, and I was, and he came in and he had a shirt on. And I said, "Oh, what are you doing with that shirt on?" "And you don't work for me anymore." "I'm back from the future. You're not there." And I was
yeah.
saying all these things. And I kept looping with him, and he ended up ringing the ambulance, and I was taken to hospital.
Wow.
And and then I suppose it was about 8 to 10 hours later,
Mm,
I looked around and I thought, huh, I consciously came back and I went,
yeah.
"Where am I? What am I doing here?" And I had absolutely no memory of that last 10 hours, totally gone. And it was a TGA, a transient global amnesia. They
Wow.
don't know
What
what
caused
causes
it?
it. And this was a unique one because often it's caused if you've had a
No,
really
something.
dramatic car accident or,
When
but
the thing. When was this?
this
When did
October,
Wow.
and there are no residual effects. And I can remember thinking afterward, and I said to Sam, I said, "I'm back." And he said, "You've been saying that for 8 hours, Mum." "And you haven't been. Let me just
Yeah.
wait." And I went, "Fascinating." And he said, "Don't say that again, please. You've said that." Because I was high energy, and the
Yeah.
ambulance
It's
people
like
asked,
your conscious mind was like feeding what people needed to hear, but
I
wasn't.
was gone. And it
Oh,
was basically my eldest son said, "You just shut your computer down," and rebooted 10 hours later. And it was a wonderful warning
yeah.
to give um, that really quiet self time. So I
Yeah.
think that's probably one of my major
That's
experiences.
amazing.
It
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yes. We can, and especially in the line of work we're both in, we're giving a lot. And I don't know about you, but family, friends, I'm the giver, the rock, and it's
The
we
fixer.
the fixer, and it's finding those things for you. Like I've read you're into your yoga, you eat healthy, you do lots of exercise, so you're doing all the right things. But it could have even been writing the book and everything else. It just there was just something that had to release.
Because I had two very emotional incidents that happened beforehand.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think, yeah, they were triggers for me to just stop. And, you need to really give yourself time in a different way,
yeah, yeah. So
not doing, just
yeah,
being.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Because
Because
we can get yeah, caught in that doing, eating properly and, it's doing. Whereas, yes, I meditate every morning. And I do the yoga at night and meditate after that. But it's being mindful of that during the day as well.
it is, and I think I always say we become human doings, not human beings. And I'll be the first to say I'm not great at self-care. Like the things that were my writing used to be my sort of I've written since I was 8 years old. I still love it, but in a work context, it's different.
Yeah.
Cooking is my thing. I've got a little cooking channel on Instagram now. Taste Tank with Renee, very sporadic. I'm not doing it to get followers. It's more around actually documenting how I cook things because I don't follow recipes.
No.
My little niece, and I don't have kids, and my nieces and nephews are always like, "How did you make that? Where's that going to go?" And it was like, wow. So yeah, I think the being in something, what do you do that has no purpose? And I remember
Mm.
a mentor asked me this years ago, and I'm a bit of a productivity junkie, and I said, well, why would I do it if it has no purpose? Reading a trashy mag, it could be watching Netflix now and then,
Mm.
just giving yourself permission to pause, just to do whatever it is that gets you in that childlike wonder and that state, I guess, of being.
Mm.
That's
Exactly.
amazing.
And then that comes the dopamine addiction that's
Yeah,
happening at the moment. That's you
yeah.
got to be really careful of the pets you do choose.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, you do.
Mm.
You do. Um, I'd love to just ask you because we'll have to bring it in, unfortunately. We talk about limitless leadership. So to me, a limitless leader is someone that's never really an expert. You go from learning to unlearning to relearning, continually evolving, and I guess in a workplace going from leading teams to leading leaders to being co-creative and leading industry. I'd love to ask you, who's a leader you admire? There's probably a few. They don't have to be famous. Most aren't actually. No.
I think I think there's two leaders that helped me on my way. There was Nelson Mandela when he was talking about his dad,
Yeah.
as about how he was talking that when he held a meeting, he sat and listened and was the last to speak. And that really impacted me to
Yeah.
think, because so often you get everyone together, you've got a great idea, listen to this. Well, then no one's going to say anything.
Mm,
Whereas the ability to listen and speak last, I
mm,
think is fantastic. And the other great leader that impacted me when I was really young was Mother Teresa. With her, she gave me the ability to think about how I was using my words. Because I'll never forget, she stood up and she said, I am not walking against war. I am walking for peace. And I
yeah.
thought, wow, energetically, they had a totally different
Oh,
feel. And that was when, so I think those, and also being able to be selectively vulnerable,
yes.
that's
Collective
really important.
vulnerable. I
And
agree.
it's that not oversharing or undersharing, but that, and that's, I suppose, why I created this language too, because you can share without feeling too vulnerable. I'm
Yeah.
on a rough road. You don't have to know which one or why I'm there,
Yeah.
but I'll be vulnerable in that I will share where I am.
Mm,
But so it's being honest and building that trust in your team, your family, yourself.
Yeah. And it starts with self, doesn't it? I
It
mean,
does.
you
Mm. Well,
know,
if you're out of control, if you don't have control of your steering wheel, nothing works.
no, that's right. That's
Mm.
right. And
Sorry, what were you going to say then? You were just,
oh, the Mother Teresa, I love her as well. She's just grace to me. And
mm,
that quote that she said was all about focusing on what you do want, not what you don't want. So coming
mm,
from a place of love, not a place of scarcity.
yeah,
I think that's so important, especially in
perfect.
this new digital AI remote working world, to just have that and these skills that you talk about in your book.
Well, the one thing that AI can't take over is our emotions.
No, no.
And that's why emotional intelligence is imperative now
Oh,
with uh, this increasing AI
yeah.
reach. It's just, it's coming into
Oh,
everything.
it is, it is. And I
Mm,
think it has a purpose for some things, but I think be yourself, own your thoughts, share your thoughts, share your uniqueness because no one is you.
mm.
Um, I love there's a quote on page 97. Are you being influenced by backseat drivers? Remember, you are the one who has control of your steering wheel. Welcome the advice of your passengers, but ultimately the decision to drive down a particular road is yours and yours alone. And I think that really, I've got marks I've written all over your book. Um,
Good, good. That's what it's for.
yeah, so before we finish up, I'd love just to ask you, we always have quick trivia, just a bit out there, which is me.
Yeah,
What's your favorite word?
fascinating.
Why?
Because it's non-judgmental. So
Yeah,
no matter what someone says, you go, wow, fascinating. Tell
yeah.
me more. Or
It's
um,
curious. It's curious language, isn't it?
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
love
but without the judgment. So
mm. What sound or noise do you love?
bird song.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
No, because it triggers your parasympathetic nervous system because when we were out on the plains, if the birds stopped singing, it meant there was danger.
Yeah,
And as soon as they started, oh, I'm safe again.
yeah, I love
And
that. I love
yeah,
it. You miss that whenever I stay in the city in different countries or states, I always miss the birds because I live
mm,
in an area where they're everywhere.
yeah, beautiful.
The last meal, what would it be?
Oh, that's definitely a huge raw salad with lots of chickpeas, avocado, grated beetroot, carrots, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, either a cashew dressing or, with sriracha in it or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
beetroot, can't beat it.
yeah, that makes me hungry.
Mm,
So you've done a lot so far on your amazing life on this planet. If you had another profession you'd love to attempt, what would it be?
an artist.
Yeah, what sort of artist?
I think, well, I've dabbled a few times. Like I was so I wouldn't stick to any one medium because I've done
Yeah.
ceramics, painting, silk painting,
Oh,
all
mate.
those sort of things. So um yeah, I would have loved that. I think that was the first time I can remember going into a gallery with my work and them
Oh, wow.
rejecting it
Yeah,
and walking out and thinking, huh, they rejected your painting, Jane, not you.
that's right. Separate.
And
Mm.
yeah, exactly. And that was a really good lesson to learn.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's easy to take things personally.
It is. Well, when the boss,
Right.
says, no, this isn't enough. Well,
Yeah,
he's direct, he's objecting to what you did, not who you are.
that's right. That's
Mm.
right. So,
Mm.
Jane, I have loved our conversation today,
So have
and
I.
yeah, just so many insights there, so many great tips. How can people get your book? It's in Your Hands by Dr. Jane Foster. How can they
Uh,
get it?
they can go to my website, which is emotionalresiliencetraining.com.au. And that takes you on a link to Balboa Press,
Yep,
or you can just type in "It's in Your Hands, Dr. Jane Foster." That'll take you to um, the same website as well.
amazing. I
And
love
I'm just doing the audio book at the moment.
fantastic.
And
Yeah.
if you're an audio person, because then I've got an audio course that you can do if you don't want to get the book.
Oh, that's great. And you're on
Mm.
LinkedIn?
I am.
Yep, we're all on good old LinkedIn. We're there. So if you'd love to grab a copy of Jane's book, and I highly recommend, or find out more about what she can do and help you, your leaders, and your teams, we'll have all those details in the show notes. So I just want to say thanks again, Jane,
Well, thank you.
and thanks to those that are listening or watching. I'm sure you've gleaned a lot of great gold out of this. Keep in touch. We've got some upcoming public programs around some of these topics, and also our Cook and Connect retreat that we can run for your team. So just go to reneegiarrusso.com, and programs, and you can find out more there. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and have a happy day or evening. Thank you for listening to the Limitless Leaders podcast. So you don't miss an episode, make sure you follow the show in your favorite podcast app. Feel free to share this podcast with your family, friends, and work colleagues. If you're enjoying the show, find out more on what we do at RG Dynamics at www.reneegiarrusso.com. Until next time, be limitless.